Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. The first supplement we're going to look at is a supplement called sodium bicarbonate. Now, sodium bicarbonate is a supplement taken by athletes, and it has a number of positive effects. So let's look at those positive effects first. So sodium bicarbonate is known to reduce acidity in muscle cells. Now we know that acidity or acid within a muscle is due to or can certainly contribute to fatigue. So if we're able to reduce the levels of acidity in muscle as a result of sodium bicarbonate, then we all know that the potential for fatigue to be delayed is going to be great. So there are our first two, reducing the acidity in muscle cells and delays fatigue. The third benefit sodium bicarbonate has, it increases the buffering capacity of blood. Now when you see the word buffering capacity, it basically means that it keeps blood at the correct pH. Now the correct pH is really important. If it becomes too acidic, then like we've already said, we know that could impact the fatigue that somebody experiences, and the fact that fatigue could happen quite early. So it's really important in delaying fatigue. Also, they think, again, we're not 100% certain just how useful this particular form of supplementation is, but it is something which there has been some mixed research on it. Now, there are also negatives to sodium bicarbonate. Let's have a quick look at some of those. So we know that if you take this, you might experience some vomiting, you might experience some pain, and you might experience diarrhea. And obviously, again, you as an athlete, you'd have to weigh up the positives and the negatives. The next form of supplementation we're going to talk about is a supplement called creatine. Now, creatine is typically taken by athletes where powerful muscle contractions are going to be needed. So sprinters or power lifters, I guess they would be the typical sort of people that might take creatine. So let's look at some of the positive effects of taking creatine. So first of all, creatine aims to replenish phosphocreatine stores. Now, phosphocreatine is basically a form of energy that we use in our body. The second benefit it has is that they think it benefits short, powerful, highly intense movements. Now we know that phosphocreatine, the energy stores above that we've spoken about, we know that those stores are used for short, powerful, highly intense movements. So if creatine replenishes those energy stores, and obviously it's likely to have an impact on those types of movement. Now the third point, again with lots of supplementation, there is mixed evidence to show just how useful it really is. With as many studies say it's useful, there are as many studies to say it's not that useful. So there is a real mixed research out there at the moment. Now again, as with any supplementation, there are some positives, there are also some negatives as well. So let's have a quick look at those. So the negatives of taking creatine is that it can cause muscle cramps, it can cause diarrhea, and it can cause vomiting. Now, diarrhea and vomiting we have seen before, don't forget, and it gets really important that when you come to revise, you do try and chunk your information together. So diarrhea and vomiting are common side effects for sodium bicarbonate and for creatine. Okay, let's look at the third one we're going to be looking at today. Okay, so the third, this isn't supplementation as such, this is a type of dietary manipulation, we call that. Now the whole purpose of this is what we call glycogen loading, or you might have heard of it called, as carbohydrate loading before, but we need to know it's called glycogen loading. So glycogen loading is basically we're looking to increase the muscle glycogen stores in our body. And if we can increase that, if we can maximize those stores, we basically call that supercompensation. Now we know that glycogen is used to provide energy. And again, if we can supercompensate, if we can have energy stores that are full to the max, then we know that fatigue is going to be delayed, and we know that our endurance capacity is going to be improved, so we are able to work harder for longer. Now there are also some side effects. We get this sensation of heavy legs. There could be increases in weight, and during the actual carbo loading phase itself, which we are going to talk about in a minute, water retention occurs, which makes you bloated, and during the depletion phase you can become irritable. Now what we have with glycogen loading there are three classic ways of being able to load the glycogen in your body. So let's look at method A first. Okay, so method A is basically where you want to reduce your glycogen levels in your body by endurance training. So you are going to be working incredibly hard to deplete as much of those glycogen stores in your body as possible. Now for 3 days after that, we're then looking for you to follow a really low carbohydrate diet and now start to reduce the amount you train. Otherwise you simply wouldn't have the energy to do it. So again, what we're trying to do now is really strip back the glycogen levels that are in our muscle and within our body. Now for the next few days, what we're then going to do is we're going to follow a really high carbohydrate diet with little or no training. So what we've done is we've completely depleted the glycogen stores, and what we're now trying to do is we're now trying to fill them up as much as possible. So this would be an example of the carbo loading phase. We're loading up with carbohydrates to increase the glycogen stores in our body. Now the final point, we always look to drink more water, as we know that drinking water can help glycogen storage. So that's method A. There are another two that we can do. Let's look at method B. A little bit easier. Now the day before a competition, let's imagine you've got a marathon on the Saturday. On the Friday, what you're going to do is you're going to complete 3 minutes of highly intense exercise, working as hard as you can. But like I've already said, only for 3 minutes. Now, immediately after that 3 minutes of exercise, we have this carbo window opening. It's basically your ability of your body to make the most of the carbohydrate that you eat and store it effectively. So as soon as you finished exercising, or certainly within 20 minutes, we're looking for you to eat a high carbohydrate meal. What we're looking to do is maximize the glycogen which is going to be stored in our muscles and our liver, so our performance the next day in our competition can be the best it can be. Now you've got to understand the carbo window closes after 2 hours, so it's really important you don't leave it too long. And the research suggests 20 minutes after exercise is a really good amount of time. Let's look at the final point again, drink more water. This will help with glycogen storage. That's the same as method A. Okay, let's look at our final method, method C. Method C involves you reducing the amount of training a week before competition. So let's imagine you got a competition on the Sunday, probably on the following Sunday or Monday, you reduce the amount of training that you're doing. Now 3 days before competition, you follow a high carbohydrate diet and you continue just with some light intensity training. Now again, look at the final point, drink more water, which helps glycogen storage. That is a common theme across all methods. So that's our third and final method of glycogen loading, and we've already looked at the benefits and the negative effects. Now let's look at our final supplementation. Okay, our final supplementation is caffeine. I guess we've all had a cup of coffee before, or a Monster or a Red Bull. They are examples of caffeine, but it can be taken in powder and even a type of pill form as well. So let's have a little look at some of the positive effects of taking caffeine as a supplement. So caffeine is known to increase alertness. It also allows fat to be used as an energy source. So those glycogen stores are delayed in terms of how quickly they are used. So if we have more glycogen and fats being used, then obviously our aerobic performance is going to be better, because we know fat is the preferred method or the preferred type of fuel for a long duration, low intensity type of exercise. And it's also thought that caffeine improves our reaction time as well. So it could be used for where reaction time is really important. Sprinters, for example, or certain positions in football, a goalkeeper, let's say, or the same in hockey. So we're able to react to the ball. Now we also have a number of side effects as well with caffeine. And again, if you've had a couple of cups of coffee or a couple of cans of Red Bull in a day, you might have experienced some of these yourself. So first of all, the first one might happen is dehydration. We then have insomnia. We then have an irregular heartbeat. As we know, caffeine can affect how quickly your heart does beat and how it functions. And again, we have vomiting as well. Now again, we've seen vomiting before. So we know that vomiting can affect almost all of the supplements or the dietary manipulation that we've spoken about today. So again, try and group your knowledge together, try and chunk your information together. Just when it comes to revision, it makes it a little bit easier.